When you think of Metroidvanias, what probably comes to mind are games like Hollow Knight, Blasphemous, or Dead Cells. Now, what if you make that Metroidvania 3D and make it look like it's from a 5th gen console with some pretty advanced movements, because that's Pseudoregalia, a retro-esque 3D Metroidvania platformer that was made by one person named Ritzler. I initially first heard about this game a while ago and I kinda dismissed it at the time, mainly because I was working on a different video. But lo and behold, the game reappears in my discovery queue with an overwhelmingly positive review rating, and now that piqued my interest, tempting me even further with a $6 price tag to it. But I digress. So, what's the verdict? Is it good? Is it bad? The short answer is, it's pretty good. It's a short game that takes its graphical inspirations from 5th gen consoles like the Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1, and the Sega Saturn, and that's to name a few. And if you didn't hear me 15 seconds ago, it's also $6 on Steam, so, you know, you can buy this or buy a bag of Lay's potato chips, pick your poison. Its main selling point is the movement system, which is pretty goddamn good. The long answer is the rest of this video, so let's talk about it. You play as Sybil, a goat, bunny, cat, lady thing that was pulled into the mysterious dreamlike castle of Castle Sansa, and you are left to explore in classic Metroidvania fashion, finding new abilities, power-ups, and secrets that will help you explore further into the castle. You go through the tutorial segment, getting your slide, which is pretty much self-explanatory, and your weapon for the whole game called Dreambreaker, which I think is a sword, but she wields it like a tonfa. I mean, I don't have any comments about it, but I do have one for the combat system. The combat system is pretty bare bones and very simplistic, and understandably so. I mean, after all, it's about exploration and them movements. Which brings me to the movement system of the game, which is really solid. Just like my I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure any gameplay you see from this game won't do the movement system justice until you specifically play it for yourself. Like I said earlier, you start early with the slide, and then you gradually start learning new abilities to add to your crackhead maneuvering repertoire, like jumping on walls, slide hopping, a ground pound to jump higher that you can also cancel midair, and much more. When I was going through my first playthrough, which took around 4 hours, I pretty much concluded that the movement was pretty solid. The controls are snappy, and there's nothing else to add. But then I learned about the epic gamer strats like the slide ultra hop, where you do a slide hop, but you turn Sybil around to do a backflip, and then a noise plays and she goes up really high, and there's after images, and it's just so goddamn good.
So good.
There's also some situations where you have to use the environment to help you move about, like poles you can climb and bubbles you can jump into to send yourself flying. Just overall pretty good stuff. There are 10 areas in the game and they all have a nice level theme that fits each zone pretty well, and it's pretty good to listen to. Personally, the best one is Timeless Theater, and you know I'm right. I mean, check this out. The music seems to have more of an 8-bit motif to it, but it doesn't take away from it. Of course, I do have some gripes about the game, and it seems to be a common one, in that it's really easy to get lost in Castle Sansa, and I mean really easy. When I was going back on some footage to use as B-roll, at least 67% of it was me running around in circles and entering areas I was just in. And now you may argue that getting lost is intentional so you can explore, and how my navigational skills are on par with an airline pilot with directional dyslexia. Unfortunately for you, sir, ma'am, test tube embryo waiting to be born, I present to you my counterpoint.
Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Okay. Get out! Get out!
Meanwhile, the world itself is not that lore heavy. Like, there's these tables scattered about that have these pieces of paper on it, and it's kind of just there, so, you know, not really sure what to make of that. There's also the ending, which is alright, I guess. Now that I think about it, it's probably more of a speedrunning game than anything. Also, another thing, which isn't a gripe, but more of something I noticed, but when you go into the options and disable the retro frame rate so Sybil moves around at smooth 60 frames per second, the enemies don't really follow that rule. So everyone's moving around in the original 25 frame rate, while Sybil moves around in 60 frames. I don't know, it's just something I noticed. Other than that, yeah. Pretty neat game that's also pretty cheap and is pretty smooth gameplay wise. Link is in the description if you want to check it out for yourself, and that's about it. See ya.